Ethan never expected that one simple sentence could shatter everything he thought he knew about his relationship. He believed he had found something real with Lily, something stable, something worth building. But the cracks started forming slowly, quietly, like hairline fractures you don't see until they split the whole wall open. At first it was small comments, harmless comparisons, little mentions of her ex, Mark. Then those mentions turned into a pattern he couldn't ignore. Every argument ended the same way. Every disappointment pointed back to the same man. And the night Lily looked Ethan straight in the eyes and said, "Mark would never do that," something inside him finally snapped. What happened next wasn't screaming or slamming doors. It was a calm decision, a phone call, and the moment the truth came out louder than any accusation Lily could make. It was the beginning of the end. Ethan stood in the living room staring at Lily as she hurled accusation after accusation, her voice sharp enough to slice through the air. She kept circling back to the same point, the same comparison, the same tired refrain involving Mark, as if saying his name often enough would magically make Ethan become someone else. Her words hit a different nerve this time, not because they were harsher, but because they were exactly the same as every fight before it. Ethan felt something settle inside him, a strange calm that didn't match the chaos in front of him. Instead of yelling back, instead of defending himself, he simply pulled out his phone. Lily froze, and she realized what he was doing. Her expression shifted from anger to confusion, then to panic as he scrolled through his contacts. She stepped forward, reaching for his arm, but he moved away before she could touch him. He hit call. The ringing tone cut through the argument like a blade. Lily's eyes widened, as if she were watching a bomb countdown. Mark picked up on the third ring. His voice came through, groggy but alert enough to recognize Ethan immediately. Ethan didn't waste time on pleasantries. He asked plainly, "Did you ever leave Lily because of the things she's accusing me of?" There was a pause, a long one, the kind that only happens when someone is deciding whether to sugarcoat or tell the truth. Mark chose the latter. He let out a slow exhale and said, "Yeah." And not just that. "She twisted things, made me feel like every problem was my fault. I stayed too long. Don't do what I did." Lily's face drained of color. She shook her head silently, mouthing, "No," over and over again as if her denial could rewrite history. But the truth was coming through the phone, unfiltered, undeniable. Mark continued, his tone almost sympathetic. "Listen, man. I'm not trying to get involved, but if she's doing the same patterns with you, you need to know when to walk away." Another silence followed, this one heavier. Lily covered her mouth, her breathing shaky, completely thrown off balance for the first time since Ethan had known her. Ethan thanked Mark, ended the call, and slipped the phone into his pocket like he had just closed the final chapter of a book he no longer wanted to read. Lily's composure collapsed instantly. She reached for him, her voice trembling, trying to explain, trying to twist the narrative back into her favor. But something had shifted too far to return. Ethan wasn't angry anymore. He wasn't even hurt. He was done. The room felt oddly quiet now, almost peaceful, as if the storm had finally revealed the truth hidden beneath it. The moment Mark's voice echoed through that speaker, Ethan saw the relationship for what it truly was. And Lily realized, too late, that the one thing she had never expected to lose was already slipping out of her hands. Ethan walked past Lily without another word, heading straight to the bedroom where her things were scattered in little pockets of chaos. He didn't rush, and he didn't hesitate. He simply began gathering her clothes, her makeup bags, the shoes she always left in the middle of the floor, placing everything neatly into a suitcase. Behind him, Lily followed like a shadow unraveling. Her voice cracked as she demanded to know what he was doing, but Ethan stayed silent. Silence, he realized, was louder than any argument they had ever had. Lily's anger ignited first. She accused him of humiliating her. She accused him of betraying her by calling Mark, She accused him of blowing everything out of proportion. Every sentence came out sharper, faster, more frantic. But Ethan kept packing. When anger didn't work, Lily switched tactics so abruptly it felt rehearsed. She started crying, soft at first, then louder, dramatic, clutching her chest as if her heartbreak were a physical wound. She told him she didn't mean anything she had said. She told him she only compared him to Mark because she was scared of losing him. Ethan continued folding another sweater. Then came the threats. She told him he was making the biggest mistake of his life. She told him she would ruin him if he walked away. She told him she would make sure everyone knew what kind of man he really was. Ethan zipped the suitcase closed. When she realized nothing was working, Lily broke. She sat down on the floor, tears smeared across her cheeks, begging him not to abandon her. Ethan paused for the first time, not out of doubt, but out of exhaustion. He looked around the apartment, the unpaid bills, the constant mess, the emotional storms she unleashed every week. Then he quietly asked her why the rent for the last 3 months hadn't been paid, even though he had given her the money each month to transfer. Lily froze. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared at him with an expression that said she hadn't expected him to notice. Ethan opened his phone and showed her the bank statements. Money sent, money withdrawn. Money spent on nails, clothes, brunches, and impulsive online shopping sprees. Her silence was the closest thing to honesty he had heard from her in months. Moments later, Ethan's phone lit up with messages from her family and friends. Accusations poured in one after another. They said he failed to support her. They said she deserved better. They said he should be ashamed for making a woman cry. But Ethan didn't feel guilt, only clarity. Their opinions didn't come from truth. They came from the version of reality Lily fed them. He carried the packed bags to the door. Lily followed, cycling through one emotion after another, trying every key she had ever used to manipulate him. But none of them fit the lock anymore. Ethan opened the door and stepped aside, giving her a quiet, final path out. And for the first time since knowing her, Lily realized she had completely lost control. When Lily returned to Ethan's place to collect the rest of her belongings, she didn't come alone. A small entourage of friends trailed behind her, each wearing the same expression, judgment mixed with rehearsed sympathy. Ethan opened the door without a word, stepping back to give them space, but the moment they crossed the threshold, he felt the shift in energy. Lily scanned the apartment like she was searching for something valuable. Her eyes landed on Ethan's Nintendo Switch. Without hesitation, she picked it up and tucked it under her arm as if it naturally belonged to her. Ethan raised an eyebrow and calmly said, "That's mine." Lily didn't even look at him. She just shrugged and replied, "You barely use it." Consider it compensation. One of her friends chimed in, insisting that Ethan owed Lily at least something for how he had emotionally drained her. Another began picking up a set of kitchen knives Ethan bought months before Lily moved in. Ethan stepped in front of him and took the box back. His voice never rose, but his patience thinned with every passing second. Lily then moved toward Ethan's desk, eyeing his laptop. She placed a hand on it possessively. Ethan gently but firmly lifted it from her grasp and set it aside. "That's my work computer," he said quietly. Lily scoffed, telling everyone in the room that Ethan was petty and vindictive. Accusations started flying. Her friends claimed Ethan took advantage of Lily financially. They accused him of refusing to support her emotionally. They said he had ruined her self-esteem. The room buzzed with hostility, not from truth, but from stories Lily had clearly prepared in advance. Ethan realized then that this wasn't about belongings. It was about control, her final attempt to assert dominance. When they finally left, slamming the door behind them, Ethan thought the ordeal was over. But less than an hour later, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Lily. She had sent him a meticulously itemized invoice. The title at the top read, Emotional Labor Compensation. The total, $1,800. Fees included support during stressful weeks, time spent comforting, relationship maintenance, and even romantic presence. Ethan stared at the screen, stunned at the audacity. Then a quiet, tired laugh escaped him. He opened his notes app and created a document of his own, listing every unpaid bill, every loan she promised to return, every overdraft fee he covered, every rent month she spent instead on shopping sprees. The total came to $3,100. He sent it back to her, without commentary. The response was almost immediate. Lily's tone flipped instantly from transactional to threatening. She accused him of trying to extort her. She said she would destroy his reputation. She said she would make sure no one believed a word he said. The barrage of messages grew more frantic, more unhinged, each one revealing exactly why Ethan had to leave. And as the threats escalated, one thing became perfectly clear. Lily wasn't trying to settle anything. She was trying to punish him for walking away from a world she could no longer control. Lily's smear campaign began less than 24 hours after Ethan rejected her invoice. The first post appeared on her social media, a vague message about escaping an emotionally abusive relationship, paired with a picture of her crying in her car. Within minutes, comments poured in from her friends, offering sympathy and validating every exaggerated word she wrote. Ethan didn't respond. He didn't even open the app. He found out only because a mutual friend sent him screenshots with a warning. "She's coming for you." Then Lily escalated. She posted a long paragraph claiming Ethan had controlled her finances, monitored her spending, and prevented her from living freely. She wrote that she had been forced to leave with nothing, painting herself as the fragile victim of a cruel partner. The narrative was perfect, perfectly false. But the twist came quickly. Underneath the post, a familiar name appeared. Mark. He wrote a short, calm comment saying, "This is exactly what she said about me 2 years ago." Word for word. The next comment came from Ryan, another ex. He added, "She told the same story about me to her friends. Be careful who you believe." Lily tried to delete the comments, but more people had already seen them. Some began questioning the inconsistencies in her story. Others messaged Ethan privately, saying they didn't buy what Lily was selling. The dominoes continued to fall when one of Lily's old roommates joined the thread and posted screenshots of overdue payments Lily had ignored. Another friend uploaded messages where Lily bragged about manipulating people to get what she wanted. The narrative she crafted so carefully was collapsing in real time. Enraged, Lily shifted tactics again. She attempted to contact Ethan's workplace, claiming he had violated company policies and created an unsafe environment. But she didn't even know where he worked. Ethan had changed jobs months earlier and never updated her. She called the wrong company, speaking to the wrong HR department, accusing the wrong man. They dismissed her immediately, and the representative she spoke to reportedly said, "Ma'am, we don't even employ anyone by that name." Humiliated but still relentless, Lily went back online, posting frantic updates accusing Ethan's supporters of harassment. But now her posts were met with silence. The same people who once defended her were stepping back, unsure, uncomfortable, realizing something wasn't adding up. Meanwhile, Ethan stayed quiet. He didn't retaliate, didn't defend himself publicly, didn't respond to her attempts to bait him into an online fight. He simply collected every piece of evidence and saved it privately. Lily's desperation grew as her campaign lost momentum. She posted more wildly, contradicting herself, inventing details, recycling old accusations. The more she tried to paint Ethan as the villain, the clearer it became to anyone watching that she was unraveling. By the end of the week, her posts no longer sparked sympathy. They only revealed the truth she had worked so hard to hide. The truth her exes had already lived through. The truth Ethan was finally free from. It was almost 2 in the morning when Ethan heard the pounding on his front door. Not knocking, pounding. He sat up in bed, heart thudding, wondering if something was wrong in the building. But then he heard her voice. Slurred. Loud. Desperate. Lily. He opened the door just enough to see her swaying on the porch, makeup smeared, hair tangled, clutching the arm of a man he had never seen before. The stranger looked uncomfortable, glancing around as though he regretted agreeing to whatever ride had brought them here. Lily lunged forward, trying to push past Ethan, insisting she just needed to talk, but he blocked the doorway with one arm. Her breath reeked of alcohol, and her voice cracked as she tried to force out words between sobs and hiccups. She started crying about their relationship, then suddenly switched to accusing him of abandoning her in her darkest moment. The stranger beside her awkwardly tried pulling her back, apologizing to Ethan, saying she told him they just needed to stop by for a second. Lily smacked his hand away and fell to her knees dramatically, clutching Ethan's pant leg as if she were performing for an invisible audience. When Ethan tried to help her stand, she jerked away and screamed, claiming he was hurting her. A neighbor's porch light flicked on. Another curtain moved in a window across the street. Lily instantly switched from rage to a pitiful, trembling voice, asking Ethan why he never cared. Her behavior was erratic, unpredictable, dangerous. Ethan stepped outside, closing the door behind him. He calmly told her she needed to go home. She refused. She said she wouldn't leave until he owned up to everything she believed he had done. The stranger tried again to step in, but Lily spun on him angrily, accusing him of not supporting her. The scene grew louder. More neighbors peeked out. The man who came with Lily finally pulled out his phone, muttering that he was calling a friend to come get her, because he wanted no part of this anymore. Lily stumbled onto the lawn, crying harder, clutching her stomach as if she were about to faint. Then she made up a new story on the spot. She declared loudly that Ethan had ruined her life, and that she had nowhere to go. But the performance cracked the moment a car pulled up, a familiar one. Lily's best friend stepped out, irritation written all over her face. She marched straight toward Lily and snapped, "Get up. You're embarrassing yourself." Lily tried to protest, but her friend didn't budge. She grabbed Lily by the arm and practically lifted her from the grass. The stranger stepped back in relief, mumbling that he was done with this situation. Lily thrashed, screamed at Ethan again, then broke into sobs mid-sentence as her friend dragged her toward the car. Before leaving, her friend looked at Ethan with an exhausted expression and said quietly, "I'm sorry." "She's not doing well." The car door slammed shut. The engine started. And just like that, the chaos disappeared down the street, leaving Ethan standing alone in the cold night breeze. The next day, Lily tried messaging him again, insisting she showed up because she still loved him. Ethan didn't reply. Instead, he told her what Mark had told him only days earlier. Mark, who by now was happily dating a man named Jacob. Ethan watched as Lily's typing bubble appeared, vanished, reappeared, then disappeared again. For the first time, she had no story to spin. No angle to twist. Nothing left to weaponize. All she had was the realization that the last piece of control she thought she held had slipped completely out of her hands. When Lily finally returned to her parents' house, the facade she had spent years perfecting began to crumble almost immediately. Her mother expected to see a heartbroken daughter wronged by a cruel boyfriend. Instead, she found a grown woman throwing herself onto the couch, demanding attention, whining about money, and complaining that the world was against her. Her father tried to ask simple questions: where the rent money went, why she hadn't shown up for work in weeks, why every relationship ended the same way. But Lily snapped at him and blamed Ethan for everything. The first cracks in her story appeared when her mother noticed a stack of unopened bills in Lily's bag. Credit card late fees. Rent notices. Subscription charges piling up. The same pattern Lily had cycled through for years. Her mother confronted her gently, asking where the rent money Ethan had been sending her had gone. Lily stuttered, changed the subject, blamed the bank, blamed her job, blamed stress. But for the first time, her excuses didn't land. Later that evening, Ethan sent her mother a folder containing every screenshot, every bank transfer, every message showing Lily promising to pay him back. He didn't include insults or commentary, just facts. Cold. Undeniable. Lily's mother spent nearly an hour reading through the files, while Lily paced the hallway, screaming that Ethan was manipulating her family. But the evidence spoke louder than Lily's theatrics ever could. When her mother finally emerged, she told Lily the one sentence Lily had never imagined hearing. You need to get a job. And then another blow. You also need therapy. Lily burst into tears, insisting she didn't need help and that everyone was ganging up on her. She tried storming out, but she didn't have anywhere to go. The friends who once blindly supported her were now keeping their distance. The new guy she'd shown up with at Ethan's house had already blocked her. And the smear campaign she started online had fizzled into uncomfortable silence. Meanwhile, Ethan was quietly rebuilding. He had reached out to Mark and Ryan, and what started as a quick exchange turned into an hours-long conversation between men who'd survived the same emotional hurricane. They swapped stories, noticing how Lily had repeated the same lines, the same tactics, the same crises. By the end of the night, they created a group chat they jokingly named Dodged Bullets. It became a place of dark humor, shared relief, and mutual validation. They weren't united by bitterness. They were united by clarity. Each one of them had escaped a version of Lily's chaos, and now they could finally look back and see the patterns they had once ignored. While Ethan's life was leveling out, Lily fell into another familiar cycle. Within weeks, she started dating another man, posting pictures of him online with captions about finally being treated right. In private, she told him the same tragic story she'd told Ethan, Mark, and Ryan, how her ex was controlling, heartless, toxic. The same script, the same tone, the same trembling voice for impact. She didn't realize the man she was dating followed some of the same people involved in the previous drama. A few had already warned him quietly. Even so, Lily continued repeating her well-worn narrative, convinced it would work again. For a while it did. For a while, she felt powerful again. But power built on deception has a short lifespan. Back in his apartment, Ethan looked around at the clean, quiet space that was finally his again. There was no yelling, no chaos, no emotional whiplash. Just peace. And for the first time in a long while, he realized that walking away from Lily wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning. Ethan stepped onto his balcony one quiet morning, breathing in air that finally felt clean again. There were no unread messages filled with accusations. No surprise visits. No chaos waiting to explode. Just sunlight warming his skin and the steady beat of a life that had finally returned to its own rhythm. He had started seeing someone new, someone calm, independent, grounded. She didn't compare him to anyone. She didn't weaponize her emotions. She didn't make love feel like walking through a minefield. With her, Ethan learned something he had forgotten during his time with Lily. Love wasn't supposed to feel like survival. When he looked back at everything that had happened, he didn't feel anger anymore. He felt clarity. He felt relief. And most of all, he felt gratitude for the moment he finally decided to walk away. Ethan learned that being compared to someone's ex wasn't a flaw in him. It was a sign of the wounds they refused to heal. A sign of manipulation, dressed as vulnerability. A warning that should never be ignored. And as he stood there, watching the morning unfold, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. Sometimes the greatest act of love is choosing yourself.